Bravery is being unafraid of something other people are afraid of. Courage is being afraid, but strong enough to do it anyway.
Welcome to the Busy Girls Book Club. We are a podcast bringing you reviews and news and unsolicited opinions on the internet's favorite books. So if there's a book you've been seeing on the internet and you want to know if it's good for real, we're the people who tell you. I'm Casey.
I'm Catherine.
And I'm Caitlin. And today we are reviewing a book by one of those kind of current mainstay authors who everybody loves their work and recommends it to friends. We're doing Taylor Jenkins Reid's new book, Atmosphere. And you've probably seen the cover. It's kind of iconic. It's like a female astronaut with aviators on the cover. And that's pretty much what it's about, is female astronaut. The main character decides to enroll in an astronaut program and become one of the first women to enter space. And it follows her journey through the program and into her first space flight, but also interwoven is like it flashes back between her time in the program and a current mission that's happening where she is in charge of mission control and all her friends are in space and there is an emergency. But along with all the STEMinism happening, there's also a romance, and that is a really main plot point of the book.
Good description. Do you guys have reviews from the internet?
Yeah. Please. The internet did good on these reviews. Really good reviews. I just have one, and it's a 3-star review. And it just says, Houston, I am the problem.
Oh, no. I should have thought of that. That was good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I have 2. One of them, 2.5 stars. I hate that I didn't love this.
Real.
And then a 1 star. If Joan was a spice, she'd be flour. There's a few more, but that's pretty much the gist of it. So
dead. That's so good. Like
I was like, they're gonna love this one.
That's so accurate. Oh my God.
If Joan was a spice, she'd be flour. I'm rolling. Okay. I was behind today. Our listeners don't know, but I almost missed our recording time today because of brunch drunkenness and then a nap. So I picked one of the first Goodreads reviews I read, but I picked it because I really related to it. So it's a little long, but I'm going to read the juicy bits. So 1 star. I think I've 5-starred every TJR book I've ever read until now. This was such a letdown. I went in expecting her signature emotional depth, high stakes tension, and dynamic characters. What I got were whiny, wimpy women who were astronauts, for God's sake. How do you make space travel feel boring? Where was the emotional weight of the seven husbands of Evelyn Hugo, the magnetic pull of and found family like in Daisy Jones and the Six, the tightly woven structure of Malibu Rising? This book felt like it was written by someone else. So, sorry, downer of a review, but that's what I got.
Yeah.
Well, the internet didn't agree with that reviewer.
No.
Or any of them that we read, really.
Or any of them, no. Because the overall Goodreads rating is a 4.4 out of 5. And the overall Amazon rating is a 4.5 out of 5. Now, granted, this book has only been out since middle of June, and it is July. So where do you guys fall on the star rating?
So this is an instance, also for our listeners, my phone completely died yesterday, so I don't actually have access to my Goodreads account again yet. So I have no idea what you 2 rated it, so I feel like I should go first because my rating was very low. I hated this book. I gave it a full 2 stars. And
coming in hot.
And I want to emphasize that is an extremely unpopular take. The ratings of this book so far are extremely good. I just felt like I had extremely high expectations, which is part of the problem. And I honestly felt like this book did not hit any of the notes that I'm used to TJR hitting. I feel like she writes such strong, emotionally deep, complex female characters, and this book just honestly failed to make me feel anything. I didn't really connect to the characters. I thought for the most part it was boring. It was just like nothing in it really grabbed me, and that's really an outlier for how I normally feel. And I loved the concept. I just thought, like, honest to God, it was kind of a flop for me. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, it was a 2-star read for me.
I definitely feel you there. I think I went into this book with really, really high expectations just because her last book was my favorite book of hers by far, Carrie Soto. Like that was my favorite book I've ever read of hers. It made tennis interesting. And I thought that that would happen with NASA and space because I already have like, I like space. Never going to go there, but I like space and the idea of it. Hate science though, so you're not going to convince me, and math. You're not going to convince me on that one. Anyway, this is a long-winded way of saying it disappointed me. I gave it 3 stars. It still had good moments in the book where like I can't justify it rating it any lower just because TJR is a really good writer, and I'll give her that. The characters I wasn't super connected to. I wasn't really interested in like keeping reading and putting it back on again. Like I was listening to the audiobook this week. Um, yeah, I guess like TJR, unfortunately, you have set the bar too high for me. Where like this is a 3-star read for TJR, but it'd probably be 4 or 5 for other authors. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, I'm pretty much right there with you. I also am a 3-star. It's a
Wow.
good book, but I'm not going to write home about it. And also, I looked back at my other Taylor Jenkins Reid ratings, and I think I'm maybe more critical than you two normally on her. I've never rated anything above 4 stars for her.
Wow.
So this as a 3-star is the same rating I gave Malibu Rising, which like I don't regret reading, but I thought it was kind of like a little slow, a little really in the weeds on the people, and that's kind of how I felt about this one too.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I wanted more from the love story because it
Yes.
has atmosphere, a love story.
Yeah.
And the family drama was really interesting, but also like aggressively turned me off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like my favorite parts were when you get kind of TJR's like, feeling big or feeling small in the universe kind of descriptions that were really beautiful. Um, But yeah, for a female astronaut thing and a female astronaut love story, I expected more teeth. So like it's
Yeah.
a fine book, but a 3 is like, yep, good. Move on.
Right. Wow. Well, I'm shocked, but also so thankful because I was so worried I was going to be the devil again this episode.
You're
So
just a
yeah,
little devilish.
still the lowest.
Cool.
Um, okay. Well, let's go ahead and get into our discussion questions before the spoiler section. Um, is this book more plot or character driven? I'd say character, which is kind of shocking because the book starts with a spoiler and then kind of rewinds in time. And the characters don't really move at all. So that's crazy.
Yeah. There's not a ton of character growth in this book. There's like one character growth, and that's it. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is character driven because it's the decisions of the group and the decision of the main character to join the NASA space program and go from there. There's not a lot of plot to the book. It's really just her story and her somewhat coming of age as an adult.
Yeah. Her second coming of age, which is her coming out.
Yeah. But not really coming out.
That's so funny. Yeah, she's the only one in the whole book who doesn't know she's gay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to say it.
Yeah. No, you're right. Everyone else knew.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is. Caitlin, do you agree? Character difference?
Yeah, obviously. That's why I'm
Okay.
laughing. The plot is so interspersed. Like, you're only trying to read to get to what you're teased with in the beginning, and then at the end, it's kind of a letdown. So
It is a letdown.
Yeah, that's a major letdown. Okay, so second question, sort of irrelevant. I think we've done almost every single TJR book as a podcast book.
Yes.
The only one we haven't done on the podcast is Daisy Jones and the Six, which I have also read.
I have not read that one. Also, she has some other books, but we're talking about the main. What are they called? Like the Famous Five or something?
Yeah, the ones who are all
Four.
based on like eras and are famous.
And
Yeah, and this one doesn't mention any of those characters, which is not her usual. I don't know. Like, I've gave 4 stars to Carrie Soto and Evelyn Hugo, and then 3 to Malibu Rising in this one. And I feel like Evelyn Hugo is one of those that the longer I get from reading it, the more I like it, even. Like, I still think about it and recommend it frequently, but like, yeah. I mean, I'll keep reading her stuff, but this kind of tamped my excitement down a little bit.
Yeah. I've read all of the, like, except for Daisy Jones. And I gave them 5 stars for Carrie Soto, 5 stars for Evelyn Hugo, and then 2 threes with Malibu Rising and this one. I think I also read one of her like first romance novels, is like One True Loves, I believe is what it's called. It became a movie. I saw the movie as well, which was a good book. Yeah. I mean, like, will I read other books by her? Yeah, when she comes out with them. I think she has great instincts. Like, this book could have been a lot better, but like,
I could easily see
the plot and the premise was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This goes into the last question we normally go, but I could easily see, I think all of hers are being adapted, and I could see how this book was written to become a film.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like all her books are very visual, and also they're all like realism. You know, they're based in like an American era of history.
Yeah.
And so they feel, even when you're reading them, at least for me, like very visual, like very strong image in my head of like what things look like.
Yeah.
But yeah, similarly, I think I gave all of them 4 or 5 stars, except for Daisy Jones and the Six, which I did not like and gave 3 stars. So this is my least favorite TJR book. But she's written bangers for me. Like, she's written books that are like in like my top list of all time. So that was not necessarily expected. Okay, so what did you guys think of the pacing of this book? We've already kind of mentioned the plot in some areas is a little bit lacking.
I mean, she's pulling kind of a Evelyn Hugo-esque thing of the narration style, but doesn't execute it as well, because you start off with such a bang and then leave you with such a cliffhanger. And then you go into the monotonous daily life of this white toast, milk toast person.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I just want to get back to 4 years later, please. Like, I need to know what happens. Which I guess is the point, to try and get you to keep reading. But I felt like it was slow pacing when it wasn't those parts.
Yeah, I feel like at the beginning I was like, oh wow, started with some drama, can't wait to get to the next part. And then I like flipped to the next chapter and my Kindle was like 40 minutes left in chapter, and I was like, what the hell? The beginning, fast. The end, fast. Everything in between was just there. I still like read the book rather quickly, but the pacing was bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Yes. It felt like the decision to move the timeline and have the sort of teaser bit at the beginning was a last minute decision, because they keep flipping back and forth at random moments throughout the book, but it feels like very disjointed. It doesn't feel like cohesive. And I thought the teaser bit really, really worked against it. I actually thought it's part of why the romance didn't hit, is because after reading that part, it was just felt harder to like invest in their like day-to-day normal lives, which were quite boring.
Mhm.
I think the pacing of this book was pretty bad, and most of it was just because you were kind of reading. You know what? You know what I'm going to say? You read like Twilight, where it's like, why am I reading this? Like, why am I reading her eating breakfast?
If she didn't tease the drama in the beginning, there would be no reason to keep reading.
Yes. And I thought that was really not good. I had to really force myself to pick this book back up again. Okay. Caitlin teased the question, would you watch a movie or TV show of the book?
I probably would watch a movie. I don't know if you can make a TV show out of this, but I would be interested to see how a movie would work out.
I probably wouldn't, just because I didn't feel super invested in the characters. Um, I might if it was just convenient for me to watch it, like it was on Netflix and it was free, maybe, but I don't think I'd go out of my way to see it.
I mean, I'm usually curious about movie adaptations of books, and knowing that she has everything, I think, pretty much in production right now. I'll probably see some of the other ones, but and like I feel like this one would be a lot more fun if I could see like the spaceships and stuff. But yeah, I mean, if it's out there, I'll probably watch it.
Nice. Okay, guys, big question. Busy girl reading. To our readers, what do you think? If you're busy, what's the rating of how worth it this book is?
I'm going to stick with my 3 because it is not well paced, but like it's not a long book, which gives it credit, but I can't see myself giving higher than a 3.
I actually am gonna bump mine to a 4. I think it's an easy read. It's not a long read. I think it's widely accessible for any audience unless you're homophobic. And like I think a lot of people would find interest in it. And despite it not being my favorite TJR book, I still think a lot of people would enjoy this. And it could be easy to get through for someone just looking for a good little fiction read.
I'm gonna stick with my 2. To me, this book just really isn't worth picking up. It was supposed to be a romance. It didn't give romance. It was supposed to be a space thriller. It really didn't give space thriller. So I don't know that it really knows what it wanted to be. And I just like, I think one of the biggest things for me in my Busy Girl rating is how worth it is it to pick up this book in comparison to other books that are popular right now or that you might want to read. To me, this book gave flop. And so, like, I'd recommend every other TJR book above this book, much less like every other like period piece you could have read. So I'm going to stick with it too.
You know what this book needed? Rocky.
It did. It needed.
Maybe that's it. Maybe
conclusion.
it's just that no space novel will ever be Project Hail Mary and Rocky for me. The movie preview looks so good.
It
Okay.
does look really good.
It looks really good. I was like, oh, I'm gagged.
Ryan Gosling's going to do an amazing job at that. Okay. Anyway,
Yeah.
so off topic.
Well, now we're at our spoiler alert section. So, yeah, I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I'm sure you know how we normally feel about TJR. So take that as you will and decide if you want to read the book. When you decide, come back and experience the rest of our opinions about how all the various different plot points went.
Yay. Okay. Um, when you first heard this book was coming out, what did you think of the premise, and did it live up to your expectations? I think we already all know the answer to the second half of that question that was written here, but let's talk about like the hype versus what we got.
I was so excited for this book. I'm sorry, lesbian astronauts? That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I think I was prepared for more of like a Carrie Soto type journey.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's bad to have main characters that are a little bit more people pleasers, is maybe the way to say it.
She
But
lost herself for being a well-liked rule follower.
yeah. But I feel like the first women in space were a little bit more hardcore than that.
Yes.
Thank
Like
you.
the discrimination and the barriers they faced also gave weak.
It was
And
really weak.
I feel like that really did a disservice to the subject matter because women in general faced huge barriers to get to that point, like had to fight hard to be allowed to get those opportunities. And then gay women to get recognized and accepted for their sexuality, like that's like still hard in a lot of people's lives. And so I was like, the fact that they're like, yeah, like people know, but they're going to be quiet about it. And everyone here is nice and we love our teammates. I was kind of like, bullshit. Like, I
Yeah,
was
there
not
was no
this.
tension on that point until the very end.
No, and that tension felt really flat because I think up until that point, they were having like semi discussions about the sexism that they were facing, which was just dirty jokes, and that was it. And I was like, that doesn't feel right. Like, yes, you would face those kind of dirty jokes and stuff like that in that quote unquote locker room talk, but it would be so much more than that. It would be like this devaluing of your experience. And it didn't crush me like I thought it would, because I feel like those moments are raw and real.
Mm-hmm.
And they felt really flat in this book because they felt like they were just points in time where it's just like, oh, I just had to deal with this one dirty joke. It's fine. We just have to get ahead. We just got to push ahead. And I was like, no, we really need to unpack all of the microaggressions and unpack all of what you had to do to get there. And like the moment that Sally Ride goes up, because it's in this book, because they were in the class before, this should have been a more pivotal moment because it's like all of the women's future rides on this one woman completing this mission and not failing them, or else they will never be trusted with another space mission. It didn't feel like the whole weight of the world wasn't there, which I feel like it needed to be, because especially in a lesbian relationship that you can't be open with, because at that point that was sexual deviance. And I was really hoping for more of an Evelyn Hugo-esque kind of situation where it's really talking about those issues. And because 1980 was not as good as now. Like
and it
it's
did
still
talk
bad.
about them, but in a few very slow scenes. Like it could have been, I expect a little bit more like Rebel Lady kind of thing, a little more Top Gun kind of action.
Yeah.
Like Vanessa was such a badass, and like you never really got to see that on display until like the last page.
Yes.
The literal
Heavy on
last
that.
page.
Heavy on that.
And so it was just kind of like, oh, that was a lot softer than I expected.
Because Vanessa
from the
read
hype.
as James Dean Rebel Without a Cause.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. You hear Taylor Jenkins Reid and you hear female lesbian astronauts, and you're like, oh man. And I was like, oh, that was very soft and pillowy.
Yeah. Honest to God, I finished this book and I was like, you know what? I've faced more sexism in my life than Joan.
Yes.
And I don't think that's how I should feel about like the second and third woman who ever go into space. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Also, it built up some characters and then left them kind of hanging. Like Griff was a big part for a moment and then kind of faded out. And then like, sorry, they all die in the end. So then you get his death and you're like, wait, but like it's built up to this and she's a really good friend with him. And I really got no processing of that. Like,
Right.
I don't know. I feel like there was just everything was like a little soft punch that you're like, oh.
They don't all die in the end, but yes, he dies in the end.
The people that they're painted to be closest to outside of each other all die.
Yes.
Well, I guess Donna doesn't, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
And
like
also,
there's tragedy, the entire group that you come to like kind of love, this little found family they make, like most of them die.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, learning that they die, I think in my opinion, the dual timeline in this book did not work at all.
No.
I learned Griff died before I liked him.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the point of getting to know him?
Oh, that's sad, but why do I care?
Yeah, it wasn't as soul crushing because I wasn't invested in him And then when I learned more about him, I was like, I know how to keep space.
Yes, it was like I did not connect to any of the characters in this book, and part of it is because like I knew how their story ended before I even met them.
Mhm.
Like how this book would have been better if she just told
Except
it
for Lydia, and she's
chronologically.
unlikable, so it didn't matter.
Right. I was like, oh, good, Lydia's still alive. Great.
That's the thing is you get to the end and like you feel very blah about the romance, the two main characters, and you
Yes.
kind of dislike the other living characters because Barbara's sucks. And you're kind of like, okay. Like that's just kind of where you're at. Like it ends so abruptly that I don't know, like it can't live up to the hype with how abruptly it ended, in my opinion.
Well, it ended too abruptly. And I thought, and I think I get why Casey rated it 2 stars because I saw her review on Goodreads about the ending. So we'll just skip to that. She didn't do the hard thing.
She didn't do the hard thing.
Yeah, she allowed.
I thought she did for a second. I
I
like,
did
oh,
too.
damn.
I 100% was like, okay, this is crushing, but at the same time, totally makes sense.
Right.
And then like Vanessa miraculously like manages to save the day and come back to Earth. And I was just like, we can't end there because they've outed themselves at mission control. Like there's going to be consequences for this because they've talked basically how much they love each other and they've outed themselves
Also,
to NASA.
I was like, do the other hard thing. Just have her say I love you.
Yes.
Yes. Have her say I love you and then have her die. Literally, that's what I was like. I was waiting and reading that scene, honestly, was the first part in the book. I felt like I was on the edge of my seat. And then I was like, finally, some tension. I've been reading this whole plot, no tension. Here it is. Let's get into it. And then it's just like, oh, of course, we get like the happiest version of the ending. And so, like, not only was like the what happened spoiled for us at the beginning, the ending just like totally like released all emotional impact. There was no longer any emotional stakes in like what actually happened. And so I was like, okay. And now what? Great. Vanessa's alive. Everyone knows you're lesbian. I guess now the discrimination starts that we didn't get
That's
earlier.
what I was like, well, now it's getting interesting and it's over. So
Yeah,
we don't even
yeah.
know what happens.
Because, like, sure, the people in that room were fine with it when it was a life or death situation, but now it's life. And I am sure NASA will have some things to say about these two women being in an open relationship.
Yeah. Okay. That leads us.
Also, sorry, one
Oh,
more
go
thing
ahead.
on that topic. Kind of on that topic. Maybe,
Yeah,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know. We're kind of going off the rails of the questions here, but we never got to hear how Francis felt about their love, and that's all I wanted was for them to be this little self-created family, and that was going to be the one highlight, and we never got an ending for Francis.
Okay, so actually, I have a comment based on your comment because I feel like this is another point where TJR did not do the hard thing, and the hard thing would have been better. Gay and lesbian couples were not allowed to like adopt children or work in spaces that worked with children if they were out for a very long time. It was considered deviant, and those people were considered like straight up not able to be around children. And I felt like the fact that Joan is looking after Frances and her sexual identity at this time presents a major obstacle to her being able
She
to
tried to
watch
say that, kind of.
Frances. Yeah, but then they don't actually deal with it head on. I was like, for me, what I was waiting for was for someone in Joan's family to find out or for Frances to find out. And then for her to have a reckoning within her family about what this means for her relationship with Frances. Like, can she be who she is and also be with Frances? And that like whole relationship is almost glossed over for most of it. That like, and I think that's kind of a key part of like it in this time period. That's part of what's so crushing is you had to make those decisions between your family and who you were. And it wasn't fair and it was discriminatory and it was not correct. And you still had to make those decisions. And I felt like she kind of like let Joan off the hook almost on that.
Well, and I thought that like during the fight scene between Vanessa and Joan, like Frances is in the other room. She fully probably hears.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to like come in and then find out that way. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, once again, very soft.
I wish she had come out at least, or was like she had some sort of conversation, or Frances had some sort of inkling, because everyone else had an inkling. But this is a 10-year-old girl, so we don't totally know what she was thinking.
A fairly mature 10-year-old girl because of what her mom puts her through.
Yeah.
So like she should, I don't know, maybe she didn't even know they were lesbians, but because that's the day and age. But yeah, I feel like, and she loved Vanessa so much, Frances did, that like I think it would have been a lovely little moment, but you're right, like it wasn't actually feasible, and then we actually don't get the resolution to that at all. So
Right. Like now that you're kicked out of NASA because everyone who you work with knows you're gay, is your family going to let you look after your niece anymore? Is her mom going to come back? Like it does. You guys kind of made this point already, but it feels like we actually leave the story remove ourselves from the story at the point of the highest tension when they're finally having to deal with everything.
correct.
Okay. Main characters, Joan.
If she was a spice, she'd be flour. And boy, was that accurate.
Yeah.
She has no spice.
How did you feel about Joan? Joan also has a sister who's like a horrible narcissist. What did you think about her and the rest of her family?
I mean, okay, this is going to sound so rude and so awful. I despise people pleasers. Like
when
I mean that is like, I have friends that are people pleasers. Obviously, there are moments where I people please, but I hate when they're spineless people pleasers, when they're people pleasing both sides of an argument, or people pleasing complete diametrically opposed sides, where they're in the middle of everything and they're just kind of like trying to patch up everything and people please everyone. And I'm like, you cannot people please every single living human being, because every single living human being has a different opinion on things. Like, you have to take sides eventually. And that's how Joan felt to me. So in my core, I was like, okay, I literally have to fight against my pet peeve, because I'm like, I can't stand when people don't take sides or make choices or make hard choices, or just kind of refuse to do things because they're just trying to make everyone happy. And there were moments where I'm like, you need to open your eyes. Your sister is abusing her kid. Like, let's call it what it is. This is neglect. And neglect is a form of abuse. And her sister never wanted this kid, but didn't get an abortion for some reason, even though that was available at that time. Roe v. Wade was the law of the land. So she could have easily gotten one and chose not to. So now she has a kid and she doesn't want to take care of it. She's leaving the care to you, basically, is what's happening. And like, you need to reckon, like, she needed to reckon with it sooner, before Frances was sent off to boarding school, before Frances started acting out and lashing out, because that should have been a key red flag that, oh my God, my niece has never been violent with me and is now kicking me in the shin because she is so upset.
That was really glossed over.
Yeah. So I'm like, this is abuse. Like, I don't know what you want me, like, you need to reckon with that in your head, but you're too like trapped in your own self. And I was like, dude, your niece needs help and you're not helping her. And that was pissing me off.
Yeah, Jonas, her definition is good things come to people who follow the rules. And she is rewarded in her career for being a rule follower, which is fine. Like, you're an astronaut. You kind of have to be a rule follower, a smart person, a buttoned up person. However, yeah, in her personal life, she was such a pushover that it was upsetting. Like, you're supposed to be this role model, and you talk about being a role model for your niece, and it doesn't feel very role model-y because you're kind of vanilla. And she just like has these thoughts of things to say to her sister and never says them until the very end. And it was just kind of disappointing, honestly. And like, it was nice seeing her experience like romance for the first time and then being like, but I can't tell anyone. But at the same time, like, I don't know, there wasn't a lot of tension in the romance. So the tension came in the family part. And that was the part that you're like, well, there's tension, but she is ignoring it. So.
Well, I mean, like there was beauty in like her like sexual awakening for the first time, like learning her sexuality. Like, that was really beautiful, and reading those scenes were really like cool and like how it happened and like realizing that she was in love with Vanessa. Like I liked those scenes about Joan, and that's when she was finally making decisions for herself. But up until that point, she really wasn't, except for going to space. That was it.
Right. No, I agree. I agree with everything that's been said. I did not like Joan as a main character. I think Vanessa would have been a better main character.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to give grace because I understand that like we authors often write from the more like haughty, impulsive character's perspective, and that can be annoying too. Like I agree that we need like softer female role models too, and not just
Okay,
like
but from the
Katniss.
author who gave us Evelyn Hugo and Carrie Soto.
Right. Like you can be soft without being a doormat. Like this character genuinely at different times in the book veered so far into doormat that it was hard almost to see her as a real adult. And I agree with you. Like there were moments when she needed to be standing up for Francis and she wasn't, and it was painful. Also, when she finally does stand up for Francis, it felt like kind of like not as impactful as it should have been. Like she should have gone in like way harder than she did. And I thought her family was fine. I thought her sister, however, who is like one of the villains in the book, I thought she felt very not real and not fleshed out to me, very two-dimensional. And I just expected more. I wrote this in my Goodreads review, but I feel like TJR, her strong suit in her books is normally character design. I would feel like I would normally say of her books, like great characters, meandering plot. And this book, I didn't feel like that. I felt like a lot of the characters, I didn't totally understand them. I didn't feel like they were fully fleshed out. And I actually felt that way about Vanessa too, which is why I think I struggled with the romance.
Yeah.
So that does kind of bring us to the next question, which is the romance is about Vanessa. Vanessa and Joan fall in love. I agree with Catherine said earlier. Like, I think the parts where Joan realizes that she's gay were the most impactful in the book to me. They felt the most real. Also, the scenes where her and Vanessa have to like drive to work separately and can't spend the night with each other because they know someone might see, like that felt very real and I think was interesting, and I think it was good for me to really read that and kind of understand how much it affected their lives. But yeah, I mean, what did you guys think of the romance? What did you think of Vanessa? And then there's kind of a whole cast and crew that are like the other NASA cadets. What did you think of them?
Yeah.
I liked a lot of the unspoken, like it was kind of funny that she was the only one who didn't know she was gay. Like even the readers in on the joke. And so it was kind of funny, all these people saying the like unspoken things with Griff's like, I wondered if this is how it was. And like, however, at the same time in this time period, nobody would be that chill with it. Like all of the people were like, just know, you mentioned that earlier, one of you did, but so that was kind of like fun in the romance. And then she's like, I finally feel like I know what everyone's been talking about, and like just talks about even fighting, it makes me love this person more. Like that's how you know. And so like the romance was fine. I just expected a lot more passion from two female astronauts. However, when the main character is vanilla like Joan is, I guess we got what we could get from it. I don't know. I wanted her to go in a little harder with Griff before she realized that she was gay, maybe. That could have been a little more dramatic. But I don't know. I like the side characters maybe more than the main characters. Like Donna and Griff and Hank and even Lydia was the only like funny parts of the book too. Like I don't know, like none of them were super like stand out, but I liked them.
Yeah. I so I think part of my issue with the romance is to me it read like two gay women, not two gay women who are together. Like there was no real spark that I felt between them. I didn't really get why they loved each other. And again, like this is the love that they were putting their careers on the line for. Joan is potentially putting her relationship with Francis on the line.
I don't know. I'll argue that one because I feel like they go in pretty hard about like Vanessa saying like I've had other female relationships, but this is the first time I feel like someone knows what I'm going to say before I say it and experiences the world the same way I do. And I know when you like if you find a person who sees the world the same way as you but still challenges you, like that's I could see.
Yeah, but I would argue that that's what they said about the romance. It's not how I felt about the romance. Like,
Okay.
part of writing a romance is just like getting that giddy feeling yourself and like feeling excited. Like, that's why I think people love romance is you also feel some of those like sort of like butterflies in your stomach feelings reading it. And I really didn't get any of those. And so,
Like a
yeah,
magnetism.
right, like a magnetism. Like, why are these two people drawn together? And I really just didn't feel it myself.
I get what you're saying because like I didn't totally feel it myself. There were moments where I could see like the telescope scene at the beginning where they're like looking at the stars together and she doesn't know
Mhm.
she's gay yet. Like you can tell where it's going. I also think there was an impossible hurdle for TJR to jump because we already knew that Vanessa has like pretty much a 99% chance of dying by the
Yeah.
time we're like fully meeting her. So like you're already trying to say like I ain't getting attached to this because
Yes.
you're going to be
Yeah.
dead. So you have to make the romance so much more because that's an insurmountable thing where you're going to have to override my brain into not getting attached and she
Yeah.
didn't hit that mark unfortunately, but like if she had truly made the connection so passionate and like two souls meeting and
Mhm.
like fitting together, if she had done that, then I would have been soul crushing at the end and then like this sense of relief. But
Right.
like I was a lot more upset. Like I was the only time I cried in this book, and everyone knows I cry more off than these two, was with Frances. The scenes with Frances at the end, that's when I was crying because I was just like, I felt so bad for this girl because she's been so scarred and abandoned by her mother.
Mhm.
And that she finally got a home, it was like kind of happy tears. But I wasn't crying with Vanessa. Like I was just kind of like I was upset obviously for Joan because I was hearing it on audiobook and the actress was very like, oh my God, Joan, like Vanessa,
Mhm.
Vanessa, like was very much screaming. Which definitely amps up the tension. Um I just yeah, I wish that there was more tension, more passion. Like it
Mhm.
felt very much so like two best friends meeting and
Yeah.
being together.
I think I would have liked, like, as we're talking about this, like, I think I would have liked it not to be the dual timeline and all that stuff to be at the end.
Mhm.
However, I'm not sure I would have kept reading if it wasn't dual timeline because up until, like, that was the most exciting stuff was that ending. But you're right, like, I would have been more invested in the characters and the tension. If all of that was at the end, you would have been like, oh no, not Griff, like, I don't know if there's a way to reorder this book, but I think
I think there
it's missing something.
I
Yeah.
think there is a way where you can still have the tease at the beginning, but not as big of a tease because she says after the first chapter, like that this day would go so wrong, but
Mhm.
she doesn't need, she could have ended that there. And that was the end of the flash forward. And so we are left not knowing what went wrong that day. And then we kind of like intersperse things after we meet some of the characters and fall in love with them. And that's how you could reorder it because then you would get the tension of the beginning being like, oh shit, what went wrong? But you don't know that Vanessa's in space. You don't know that Griff's in space. You don't know like these things. Like there's
Hmm.
a way to reorder this where you could still have flash forwards, but not as much of a big spoiler at the beginning.
Right. And it's just the other thing is it's 4 years of her waiting to
Mhm.
go to space. So
Right.
there probably needed to be some other rearranged tension points with Francis and Barbara or with
Mhm.
her relationship with Vanessa or someone finding like it's all there. It's just not in the right order.
I also do think the training itself at NASA gave a little vanilla. I
Mhm.
think it could have just been,
No, it was literally just 4 years of her waiting to be an astronaut.
yeah, and I think it could have been just described a little differently, or there could have been different plot points introduced that are more tensiony, like um it seems like the way it's written that the head guy, like Antonio or whatever his name is, just kind of has a mental list in his head of who the top cadets are, but they don't often directly compete with each other. And I think it would have been a lot more interesting to read them doing that, read them directly competing with each other.
True.
Like a scoreboard, leaderboard.
Right. And that feels very NASA
especially
to me.
among the women who are all very different women. And it was like, which type of woman is going to be the one that NASA wants, you know?
Yeah. Right. I also think Frances felt super real to me. I thought she was a very well-written child, like mature, but still very believable. The other side characters, totally forgettable. Don't remember any of their names, don't remember any of their relationships. I struggled to keep them straight for most of the book. Like people kept coming up and I was like, I'm sorry, which one is this one? And I think making those side characters more memorable and a little bit stronger also would have helped.
Yeah.
And building out their relationship to each other and in their rivalries to each other would have been more interesting too.
Well, I think also, like, just thinking on this about our narrator is an unreliable narrator because she sees the world in such rose-colored glasses that she sees the hope in the future of the world and not the reality of what it is. Because there is moments where she is looking, and it's specifically like Donna and Hank, and Donna's just had a kid, or she's hiding her pregnancy because she knows that she'll get kicked from the program, essentially, because like that's a liability.
Okay, but also this bitch is up doing aerial maneuvers in an airplane, super pregnant. That is irresponsible.
Super irresponsible.
I don't think that's good for a baby in utero.
No, I don't think you're supposed to fly at a certain point. Anyway, it's just like there's no tension there because the narrator keeps saying like, oh, and she'll just give birth and like someday she'll show her daughter that like both parents can be astronauts. And I'm like, bitch, I don't think she's going up in space ever because she just gave birth and that makes her a quote unquote liability. Whether I agree with that, I don't. But like that's 1980s. Like that's not going to happen. And I feel like as a narrator, Joan was just kind of like, oh yeah, and Vanessa will get to fly the spacecraft and Jonna will be able to be on flight even though she just had a child. I'm like, that's not going to happen. Like, I don't know, your hopes are so far-fetched.
I thought the same thing. And you know what? I'm glad you brought it up because I was like, also something I felt was lacking is I felt like a lot of the women just had no real pragmatism. And I think actually by all the women, it was mostly just Joan who had no real pragmatism. But it was like, I think that's part of why the discrimination that I would have expected felt too watered down is that like, this woman fully has a baby and expects that they're going to put her on a space shuttle. Like, again, for the people in the back, it's 1980. You're not going into space. You're a mom now. Like, they are not putting a mom in space. Like, I just felt like the whole, like, sort of social conservatism of it all was truly glossed over. And that was another point where I feel like she kind of dropped it, where I was like, girl, if you have a baby, these conservative ass men are not putting you in space. Like, again, I'm not saying that's right. I think that's wrong, but like, they're not putting you in space.
Yeah. I don't know. Here's a part of, we've already been talking about it, sort of talking around it. Was there enough space and NASA in the story?
No, there wasn't.
There was not.
I know when you said astronauts, I was expecting a lot more of them up in the planes or in the training simulations, but no, she just keeps going. Vanessa's at the underwater lab or whatever. And I'm like, what's that? I don't know.
Well, and like she talks about like looking over people's shoulders in like the gallery for the mission control stuff. I wish we actually got mission control simulations where it's like fake simulations of like life or death that foreshadow the future. Like that
could like show them what they're up against a little bit more.
Yeah, like we didn't see any of the training except for like the water training at the beginning, and then like that's it. I'm like, we need more training. Like
that was interesting, and I thought there would be more of that, and there was not.
I get
it's a love story, but like you can make the love story interspersed with training.
Like I know a girl who works for NASA in Houston, and she posts pictures that are cooler of her experience than what we get in this book. Like of people like underwater in spacesuits to simulate different things. Like she's in a spacesuit sometimes. I'm like, we didn't even get a description of Joan in a spacesuit.
She was in
Like there
space
should have been
for,
a
like,
moment
2
where the
pages.
first time she puts on the helmet, like how she feels, you know.
Right.
She was in space for 2 pages and vomited through all of it.
I know that. Talk about anticlimactic. Holy shit.
It made
I know
me
the point
so
was she was
mad.
like, maybe space isn't for everyone. And it's like, haha, I never thought about that. But like, wow,
Yeah.
you have a main character. Like, have someone else have that experience, not her.
Also, like, you're the second woman ever to go to space. Can you
Right.
reflect on that a little? Like,
Let
the
Lydia
momentum-
vomit the whole time and realize space isn't for everyone, not the main character.
Right. Like, it just felt, I agree, it felt extremely anticlimactic. And I agree, I think it would have helped the story if we got more of the actual in the moment training. I also think an issue for me is I just sort of like accepted that these are like elite people, but I think there were not many moments where we got to see them truly like being elite, like actually performing in ways that were impressive.
No.
And I think that
They told us it was show not it was they told us not showed us when it should have showed us.
Yeah.
yes.
And when Joan has that discussion with Antonio where he talks about like the blackmailing and stuff like that, because she's going to him to say, I don't want to go back up in space anymore. I need to stay here to take care of Francis, which should have felt more climactic. It didn't, because we saw
She
that.
didn't even say it was to take care of Francis.
Yeah. I mean, like, yes. But it was, I wish that would have been the reason. Like, I wish that was the whole reason, not her throwing up in space constantly. But then he says, like, you've done some really great experiments for us. And I'm like, what fucking experiments? I've seen her do no
Yeah, it
experiments.
said she was talking about solar something. I was like, tell me what the solar thing is, because I don't know. What is she researching?
Right.
I have no idea. How
Right.
is it helpful? Still no idea.
Yeah, no clue.
Like,
Also,
What
they
was the
made me-
arm thing the other people were working on? Don't know.
yeah, they made me like tennis. And I was very invested and learned a lot about tennis and Carrie Soto. You can make me like space.
Here's the
Right.
thing. The other thing is, as much as you research to write this book, you're not an astronaut. So, like, we're not gonna get the full effect because it's written by someone who has not lived this. And I feel like that's a pretty hard discipline to try and describe as someone who is not that person. I feel like there's very few people on this planet who could truly give us what we're looking for in what it's like to make it through NASA and become an astronaut.
Then
It's
leave it to
just
them.
what it is. It's one of those niche things you can't just learn about. And also, if you're not a scientist, it's really hard to write STEM. You know, we get complex things from Allie Hazelwood because she's like a neurosurgeon or something crazy. Taylor Jenkins Reid is not that background. So I feel like that's why we miss some of that stuff that we as three nerds really would like. But I don't know. That's just why we're not getting it, I think. And maybe no one else cares that we don't get it because they don't want to know all that nerdy stuff.
But it's based in NASA. You've got to
no, and like Andy Weir gives us that because he's like all sciencey. So I don't know. Should non-sciencey people write sciencey books? That's a whole other question.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's unfortunately like if I was an author, I would never do because there's no way I could do it right.
Mhm.
But just don't do it then. Like I think one of the reasons this book disappointed me is it because it felt like sort of a mediocre attempt. And I was like, I feel like TJR is a type of author that should be able to just like scrap a draft if it's not happening, right? Like be honest, like either do it 100% and really commit to doing the science and blah, 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 or just do a different subject matter. Like, I mean, I don't think it's that easy to write tennis, like Catherine said, and she wrote and brought tennis to life.
Yeah, that's
so,
true.
like,
I think it's easier to write tennis than to write space. But, and like, here's the thing. We get what we asked for because the title is literally Atmosphere, a love story. It didn't say Atmosphere, a space adventure, you know? So,
Right.
like, maybe our standards are too high for what was pitched to us, but
Well, maybe we would have been happier if the romance actually did hit.
That's true.
I think that's why we're disappointed in general.
Yeah.
Like I said, though, like, it's a 3 for me. It's not a bad book. There were a lot of good points, and a lot of times I, like, chuckled, and I don't know, there was some good tension in the family drama.
Yeah.
And it made some interesting points. I liked when she was writing flowery things about, Joan's view of God. I thought that was really interesting, especially as a gay woman going to space. Like, so there were interesting things. It just like,
I did like that, like pillow talk and how they had their discussions about like the universe and their place in it and God and
mhm.
space. Like I did like those moments, and I did like her inner monologue about Billie Jean King and like
Mhm.
other women who have come out and faced very big like hurdles.
Joan's inner monologue was some of the most interesting and strongest parts of the book, which is tragic that she just never says it out loud.
Yeah. Like she's got interesting thoughts. She just doesn't vocalize them because she doesn't want to upset people, which is
Yeah, and like talking about how much she loves the stars. I was like, I feel your passion talking about how much you love the stars. I don't feel your passion in your romance.
Yes, big yes on that. Okay, so one of the biggest plot points is when Joan decides to take care of her niece because Barbara flits off to have a Europe adventure with her new husband instead of taking care of her child. This was a big
Barbara
part in the book.
essentially decides she no longer wants a child and wants a new life, and it's really horrible, okay?
Yeah, it's genuinely awful. And Catherine, you mentioned this earlier. The whole book, I was like, you should have had an abortion if you weren't ready to be a mom and you didn't want to commit to be a mom.
But they were Catholic, remember that was mentioned.
briefly.
You know what's funny to me is Catholics love to be having sex and then not having abortions. Like, if you're not Catholic enough to be abstinent, then you're not Catholic enough to like not have an abortion.
Trust me, there were plenty of Catholics having abortions. As a person who grew up Catholic, there are plenty of Catholics who have abortions under the like no one knows, but everyone knows. So that's not a thing. I mean, like I don't know, maybe the time period and stuff like that, but Roe v. Wade had passed at this point. It was the law of the land. It was available if you could find it. Maybe, I don't know. It's just,
I think it was just still pretty frowned upon for a lot of white women in conservative states, Like, I don't know. We wouldn't have the story or any of the interesting parts of the story if Barbara had an abortion.
oh, for sure. Like,
and it was unique that Joan's whole purpose of living was this tiny human that wasn't her own, but who she loved more than any other person on the planet. And how when she was in space, all she could think about was her tiny human who she loved. And I really liked that, especially as someone who probably doesn't want kids, but desperately wants my sister to have kids. Granted, my sister would not abandon her children to fly off with an oil baron to Europe and never come back. But like, so I did like the Francis Joan and then Francis Joan Vanessa dynamic. It was cute. And it was some of the better parts. There was just, like we have said earlier, a lot of things that were unaddressed and the trauma Francis was experiencing via her mother.
well, and her mother kind of gets off on that. Like,
Gets off easy. Also, okay, especially Casey and I, we have sisters close in age to us. There is no way in hell I would not have raked her over the coals long before that.
The coals.
Like you,
the coals.
You would be in tears weeping from how hard I was berating you over the way you were treating my niece. Like, like as someone with a sister, I'm like, you are the older sister and you let your younger sister, and so did your parents very clearly, dictate everything you've done your entire life. Like she has ruined your family, ran your family, like talking about Disney World, how they had to secretly take her to Disney World to see Minnie Mouse because they knew it'd be like an issue with Barbara. Like, why are we all walking around Barbara?
Yeah.
Why? She's a younger sibling. Put her in her place. Older siblings put younger siblings in their place. It's just
And I go off on this all the time because I feel like there are some really unrealistic older sisters in literature that are total doormats. And I'm like, okay, I understand that not every family is like my family. But in general, I feel like it's pretty safe to say actually that the eldest daughters are like generally like militant almost.
Like a third parent.
Yes. And you're letting your sister boss you around. You're afraid to stand up to her.
Absolutely not.
Just crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Ask our sisters. They could tell you.
Yeah, they'd wish I'd stand down.
Our little sisters can tell you.
But it would have been to their own benefit. That's the thing. Is like, she always loved Barb and wanted Barb to have the best.
But why? Why did she love Barb?
I know.
Like, we never really found out
I
why.
feel like only truly loving someone you should be able to confront them and tell them that you're being bullshit, because then you truly have your best interest at heart.
Well, and she talks about that with Vanessa. It's like when they fight, they get closer. And like, I understand that some people love their family just because they're family, but there's a difference between just loving your family and like putting your entire life, moving your life across the country and putting everything you've ever done on hold because you love your family. Like, those are different things.
Yeah.
And I never got the like depth of that relationship either. The only relationship that came with any like real depth was Joan and Francis.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's also like, it's hard to be like abused and used by your family members. Like, just because they're their family doesn't make it any easier to take. You might try to repair the relationship and work harder for that relationship than you would for others who would treat you that way. But it's not like, you know, people in real life that have family members who are narcissists or abusive in some way, even if they have a relationship, it's generally very difficult for them to maintain civility. Like,
yeah,
people move across the country from their family to get away from them, just to have space from them.
like if she called her and said, "What the heck? You were supposed to take her all weekend so I could go out and have fun." I'm like, "What the heck? It's your kid."
Right. Like, even in that moment, like, why do you say nothing?
And I know it's because she just is like, if I don't do it, Frances won't have any love in her life. But that's a kind of shitty reason to have to do it.
Right. And also, you can show up for Frances and also rake your sister across the coals at the same time. Like,
yeah, like why wasn't the school calling DFS if she was there late every night? You know, that kind of thing.
right. I mean,
Not that they would do anything about that these days, but maybe back then they would have.
Yeah. Probably the 1980s of it all is why they put up with it. But yeah. Okay. So, I mean, now we're at the ending, which we've already kind of touched on a little bit. But did you guys expect Vanessa to live or die? I think we've all expressed some disappointment about.
I expected her to live. I wanted her to die. Which sounds terrible, but
Damn.
No, I felt the same actually.
I expected her to die and was sad she lived. Yes.
No, I expected her to live. It's a love story. Love stories can't end that way. Sorry. That's just how it goes. I don't know. I think I would have been happier had we got their reunion on the ground, or, you know, what happens if people have
consequences.
Yeah, like people have probably figured out they're lovers, even though they talked around it very well over the line, you know, when like I said, I want more of like what's Francis think and all that. So like it felt very unfinished, which is probably a whole star for me. I don't know. It would have been more interesting if she had died, but it would have only been interesting if she had died if we got more after the end anyway. So like either way, there needed to be more, I think.
Like, I know that's the climax and all, but you need some sort of resolution. We got no resolution.
No, it was literally like, oh, I heard her voice and I smiled. I'm like, and like, what did she make it to the ground? Did Lydia live? Did like
right.
There's literally nothing.
Well, and you know the world is watching this because this is huge news and a bunch of astronauts died in space.
Right. Or like, how did the families of the deceased astronauts react? They were your friends too. Like, the only things we were sort of invested in the book never came to give us a complete ending.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was a fine ending. It was dramatic, but not my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I just wish that we had more of the fallout, because knowing all of the forces against.
Right. Like, you finally got me wanting more from this book. Finally. And then I didn't get it.
Yeah. No, it did. I mean, I mentioned this earlier, but it feels like we leave the characters at what is actually the most difficult point in the journey. And that sucks. Like, I feel like I just sat through 300 pages of Joan being a whiny bitch, and now I want to see Joan on the other side of it. Like, this experience would have greatly changed her, and I'm interested in that. But we never get it.
Maybe there's a book too.
I'm not reading it, so that was
Bleached
fake of me to
flour.
say.
Bleached flour, not just flour. Bleached flour.
Bleached flour. Yep. Yep.
Uh,
All right.
Overall, okay, I'll say it again because we've gone in kind of hard. Not a bad book,
No.
but I feel like we do have higher standards from TJR and from women in STEM books and from space books in general. And so it's hard after reading all the other things we've read to look at this book and go, yeah, excellent, you know?
Unfortunately,
Well,
its comparison is Evelyn Hugo, which is like, that's a hard thing to top.
Send Evelyn Hugo to space. That would have been way more interesting.
Period.
right. Also, just saying for me, I give it 2 stars, so I thought it was bad.
Sorry. But most people gave it 4+, so.
Crazy to me.
Okay,
Guys.
we're a little harsher than like the average reader, I feel like, especially the longer we go into this podcast.
We've
The more
gotten
books
harsher,
we
yes.
read, the more we talk about books. I feel like I'm becoming more of a critic, becoming more of a Casey.
I feel like that's a huge win for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Probably,
big
I'm
win.
thinking a little bit more
Beating
analytically
us
about the
down.
books. However, once again, if you give me a shadow daddy and a decent romance with some political intrigue, it's gonna be 5 stars no matter what.
And you know what we
Except
really
Burley.
needed?
I'm not evolved.
Well, what Caitlin's saying is if Vanessa had been a little more shadow mommy, maybe.
You know?
Maybe this would have, yeah.
Hey,
Right.
a little bit more intrigued.
All right. Well, I think that's really the end of our discussion. Do you guys have books that you want to recommend?
If you want a more interesting space book that has Rocky, Project Hail Mary.
Oh, Rocky.
Fun side character.
Side character,
Yes.
main character. What are
You're
you
right,
talking
main
about?
character. I'm sorry.
I kind of just want to recommend, this is like kind of a cop out, but I kind of just want to recommend Evelyn Hugo or Carrie Soto is Back, which are my 2 favorite TJR books, and both have what I thought this book was lacking, which is like really interesting
A backbone.
yeah.
Yes.
Really interesting female main characters and like women who are really good at what they do and like really great kind of explorations of like how they got good at it.
I'm gonna kind of go way the opposite direction with my rec. I listened to recently Neil deGrasse Tyson's Astrophysics for People in a Hurry.
Oh.
And he talks a lot about some of the things like Joan was trying to put into words about like how we're all pieces of the universe and all that. And it was a very dumbed down version of like astrophysics. Also, his voice was really soothing. So it was like, I don't know, like 4 hours on audiobook. I think that's a fun one if you just want a little bit more space to pair with this book since we didn't get it in the book.
His voice is very soothing, so now I kind of want to listen.
It
That
was
is
an
very
excellent
true.
little audiobook. I was intrigued.
Okay,
And I know all about dark matter now, which I didn't know before. And so when it was referenced in the book, the 4 different pieces of the universe she briefly talks about, I was like, hey, Neil taught me that.
Big
Yeah.
Bang Theory taught me that.
So I actually watched what is basically like the equivalent of that book on Netflix. There's like a series called
The Cosmos.
The Cosmos, which
Mhm.
hosted by Neil deGrasse
Yep.
Tyson. And that's how I learned about dark matter. So it all comes full circle.
Yep.
Good
All
old
right.
Neil.
Good old Neil. Well, these are just our opinions. Probably unpopular ones this round.
Sorry, but not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. But if you guys read it and liked it and think we got it wrong, let us know. If you agree with us, also let us know. We love to have our expertise confirmed. You can hit us up at Busy Girls Pod pretty much everywhere, busygirlspod.com. If you want to get more into our book recommendations, we have like a huge list on our website. So yeah.
Yeah. So rate and review. Let us know what you want us to read next. Also, I'll just throw this out. We're already thinking about spooky season, so drop us some spooky recs. And that's pretty much it. I'm Caitlin.
I'm Catherine.
And I'm Casey. Thanks for listening. And when you get a chance, take a break with the Busy Girls Book Club.